Welcome to the Legislate podcast, a place to learn about the latest insights and trends in business, technology, and startups. Today, I'm excited to welcome Nick Cuomo on the show. Nick is the co-founder and CEO of Allstar, a company which makes great gaming content fun to make, easy to share, and impressive to watch. Nick, thank you for taking the time. Would you like to please share a bit of background about yourself and Allstar?
Yeah, thanks, Charles, for having me. And happy to tell you a little bit more about All-Star and my background. So I'm actually a former professional gamer. I played Counter-Strike in high school and college, and I had my own sort of zero to hero experience by creating and sharing video content for my best moments, and practically overnight that, put me on the map, had fans and teams recruiting me, and it really taught me a very valuable lesson in terms of just how important video content is within gaming as sort of a social tool and way to express and kind of convey, things to other gamers. So left a really big impression on me, was a huge part of my life. Spent the next 12 years or so of my career in design, marketing, and technology. I'm actually a designer by trade. I went to Full Sail. I did digital arts and design. I built my first website and sold it to my graphic design teacher in high school. So I've always been technical and creative, which gave me a leg up in creating and sharing my own video content. But most gamers don't have the free time, the expensive equipment, the know-how, or the resources to really do that well or regularly. So we started All-Star in 2019, really to make it make sharing your gameplay as simple and as satisfying as posting a really great looking selfie. And I think we all know that a selfie's got to make you look good for you to want to share it. So that's really what we do for gamers. We build creator tools that help them, generate and share really awesome short form media across their favorite networks so that they can connect with friends and kind of show off their great kind of gaming skills. My career after that was really just in, I spent some time in the ad world, did a digital agency called Blue Fountain Media where I met my co-founder, and I worked at a software as a service company, Movable Ink, that recently crowned a unicorn valuation. Loving it, making a lot of progress with All-Star, and excited to share more.
That's great. And I guess as a former professional gamer, what skills that sort of carry over to being a founder?
Well, I'm a very fast typist. Very quick on computers. I can click around and send lots of emails very, very quickly, which is an underrated skill as a CEO. I think outside of that, it's a very competitive world. I think gaming helped me tap into my kind of competitive side. And I definitely have carried that through my career into, All-Star, and, you just kind of really be on your toes. Also, I think the pro gaming, I guess, like ecosystem or social sphere, you just get exposure to a wide range of personalities because, the game just attracts people from all walks of life. So I think at a really early age, I got very comfortable being able to just deal with any kind of person and any sort of attitude. And some people are very nice and some people are quite mean. And I think you kind of have to have a bit of a thick skin to really put yourself out there in that world. And I think that definitely carries forward into the startup realm. And then obviously besides that, just, we know a lot about what makes good gaming content. So that definitely finds its way into the product.
That's great. And I think typing quickly is underrated.
It is for sure.
And I guess since starting All-Star, what's been your favorite moment?
My favorite moment, that's tough, but I think I have a lot. I think my all-time favorite is just, it was very surreal when Mark Cuban decided to invest in us. And there's a few kind of surreal moments. One was just like, I was at the airport. I was at JFK Airport getting ready to leave for an engagement vacation with my then girlfriend, now wife. And, one of our, kind of company contacts reached out to me. It was like, hey, we sent your materials to Mark. He's interested. He has questions. I'm like, perfect timing. And we jumped on a call. We kind of hashed out our response. barely made it onto the plane. Long story short, she said yes. He said yes. I was lugging a 8-pound gamer laptop around Florence, Italy, doing due diligence and trading emails. But it worked out, and then I think it was a couple of weeks later. It might have been in like November, late November, early December, and I was up late just doing what I do, writing emails and building stuff. And I got an email from someone on Mark's team at like 1 a.m, and it was just him asking to invest a lot more actually than we originally were seeking. And of course, the answer was hell yes. But I was very tired, so I actually woke my wife up and was like, "Can you read? Am I interpreting this correctly?" And then I called my co-founder, and it was a very transformative moment. We'd been building a company for a few months. We didn't have salary for the first 18 months, even after he invested. But it was like everyone kind of looked at us like, that's a little crazy. You guys had really great careers. Like to just kind of, walk away from that and jump into like gaming clips was, I think a lot of people question that opportunity. And a lot of those questions turned into, as soon as, a billionaire from Shark Tank backs your vision. So that was, that was a very special moment, I think, over the course of a few weeks.
Congratulations. And I think Mark he has a reputation of answering every single email, I think. And very quickly.
He's a superhuman. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. And I guess, how has he been as an investor?
He's great, super friendly, very, very motivated to help us get stuff done. He just ultimately, I don't know how he does it, because obviously he has a lot of, attention, and people really, think about him and reach out to him. Like he's a big famous celebrity, but he's still the first guy to open our newsletters, our investor updates, which is really always super impressive. And I think, we don't really ask a ton of Mark. I think obviously we know he's very busy, but whenever we have, he responds, he helps us out, and he's great. But generally, I think he understands that it's our job to build the business. So
absolutely, I think especially when you bring on such renowned investors, you think that it will transform your company, and it will, but ultimately you still need to build it.
Yeah. I think that's, I don't know where that misconception comes from, but I do think that a lot of people over-index the idea that like, if I get the right investor, then like, they're going to do this. It's like, no, they're investing in like A, you, B, your team, C, like your product. So if you're not spearheading that, the first thing they're putting in is money, right? I mean, like, yes, introductions, connections, but in my experience, I mean, I have continued to maintain relationships with investors that I really like, that have passed on us 3 or 4 times, honestly, and they'll make any intro I ask. So a lot of that like value add of like, oh, you'll get my network, like you can get that before or after they do or they don't invest. So I think it is important to just really understand that, it's not going to change everything you do. It's going to give you credibility. It's going to give you obviously important things like capital and connections. But the work is always on the founder, and there's a lot more work than you think it's going to be.
So nice segue to my next question, which is, what do you wish you'd known before starting? I guess self when you're out of work.
What was this question again? Sorry.
What do you wish you'd known before starting Allstar?
What do I wish? Okay. So what do I wish I had known before I started Allstar? Good question. I think probably that it's going to be a lot more work than you think it's going to be. There's like a great banner on Twitter. I think a lot of founders kind of relate to this, because a lot of us are very successful or driven people in our careers, and they would say, I really should just go off and do this on my own, or I really just want to kind of be my own boss or master my own destiny, or just, really be able to go as fast as I can go. And there's this great banner on Twitter. It's a meme. And it's like, we didn't do this because it's easy. We did this because we thought it would be easy. And by the time you figure it out, you're already very far into things, and you start to develop this level of, again, like the thick skin, the grit. You're kind of just like, this is, it's going to keep getting harder and tough. But one of my mentors gave me the best advice I think I've ever gotten, which is the only thing that can stop you is you. And I think in most cases that is true because yes, of course, like you can just mismanage funds or like you can just totally like ram your community into the ground or just like not, execute well. But even if you do all of those things properly, you're still going to hit those points where you're like, man, I didn't think it would be this tough. But that's where you have to be like, well, hold on. Like, I don't need to also be another obstacle for my own success. So that was really important. That's gotten me through some tough things. So yeah, I wish I knew that, before I went into it. And, probably a lot of things, but that's probably the main one. I think I would have maybe approached this a little differently or maybe looked at, time and team and some of the kind of, I guess, ingredients or building blocks that are going to help you through those challenges in the future a little more thoughtfully or a little more tactically and a little less sort of optimistically, I think, because I think the better, the earlier you make better decisions, like you're just doing yourself a favor in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. Being a founder is quite lonely at the end of the day, and it is very easy to just feel sorry for yourself. And
yeah, exactly. It'd be like, snap out of it.
So yeah, great piece of advice. And you've had this traction. What's sort of the goal and vision for the next 5 years?
Goal, vision, next 5 years. So we want to be the number one place where Gen Z spends their time. 80% of them play video games, and 1 out of 3 want to create content. So the way that we look at it is in gaming today, if you're a gamer and you want to create content, you want to express yourself, you really only have 2 choices. You can be a live streamer or you can record your screen. Both have a bunch of drawbacks, including negatively impacting your game performance, being extremely time consuming, requiring a high threshold of like technical or creative skills. And then you also have to be like cameras on and have to, inject an element of like personality and charisma in order for that content to stand out. And realistically, that's not really up to most gamers' interests. I think I would describe a lot of gamers as being like, camera's off. I want to play games. I don't want to be like stressed out. And then the, sort of resource constraints of just how long it takes and how much money it takes to have good hardware or good content. It's not available to most people. So we sort of started Allstar as an alternative that really focuses on using technology and game data to make it really super simple to make great content and make that process fun and accessible. So we think that's really the most important thing here. And, I think long term, we sort of imagine this being like a TikTok for gamers. I think it oversimplifies things. They're very different sort of, products and approaches to markets. But, I do think that gamers don't have that platform of record where they can casually hang out and connect and share and create. And I don't think they have enough outlets for creative self-expression or really just casual content creation. And so that's really the void that we're looking to fill. And yeah, we're really trying to kind of pull that gaming community together through great moments.
That's really exciting. And I guess what tips could you share to, an aspiring gamer looking to build a brand with content?
Yeah, I think, first of all, pick your game, right? I think, if you're really passionate at a game or you find yourself drawn or just exceptionally good at something, keep going in that direction. I think there is always a deeper, bigger world than you think. That was my experience with Counter-Strike. Played a lot of games. I loved a lot of games. I love StarCraft and strategy games and, weird simulators like Theme Park and things like that when I was growing up. I played console, I played PC, but when I downloaded Counter-Strike for Half-Life, it was a mod at the time, I was like, I'm pretty good at this. I felt like the game kind of came to me naturally. So I kept playing it, and it kind of just followed this path into what turned into esports and pro gaming. So I think once you've got like the skill component or you're more integrated into the community, like message boards and Discord servers, you start to meet all the other people that are really focused on it. And there's a whole life there. There's a whole community there. And that's where I think it becomes a lot easier to create content or to create kind of interesting content that is more appealing to a niche or a subset of audience, because you can't be everything for everybody. And, I think the people that do that very successfully, like Mr. Beast, right? Like he's creating content for everybody. Unless you've got $1 million to give away, every week in your videos, that's not going to be very accessible. So we think that is probably the gamer sort of strategy that I would recommend. And I think besides that, it should be fun. I don't think you necessarily need to make content with the intent to like be a professional and build a brand. I think it's, my, experience when I started making content was just fun. It was fun to go and watch back like a cool moment you remember, and then to share that, and then have your friend also be like, whoa, yeah, that was cool. And like, you're pretty good at this. Or, I didn't realize how crazy that, shot was that you took. So I think it can just be a fun thing, and you never know where it leads. I think if you have fun and you do it a lot, sometimes things will kind of come together on their own.
Yeah, it sounds like same tips and advice for being a founder almost.
Pretty much, yeah. It's, I guess, a bit of a pattern there. Yeah, for sure.
Great. And as a busy CEO, founder, I imagine you must come across quite a few contracts and legal documents. What are sort of the key ones?
Favorite part of the job. Nothing better than lawyers and contracts. No offense, Neil. I think we deal with a lot of SaaS arrangements. A few as of late have been major distractions. One, which I won't name who, was actually an extremely frustrating and disappointing renewal process. And we ended up leaving that company, going to a competitor. And I think, they really mishandled it. And I think part of that was that, we crammed a ton of negotiation communication into like the last 3 days of this, sort of contract term. And they were very aggressive in the approach they took. I do feel like I was being, maybe paying a little karma, because I spent many years in SaaS sales. And, I started to kind of remember some of the tactics and strategies to, try and increase the annual contract value. And being on the other side of it, I think, granted, I was a lot more transparent and direct and trying to be a good partner to the customers I work with. I was, we almost signed a document, and I was like, whoa, this is double what we paid last year. And I explained, I was like, this, we have budget for flat. And they were like, well, it is flat if you look at it, through this lens with this, like, tint of paint. And I was just like, no, I'm like, I remember this tactic. I was like, you're comparing this to like a made up pricing that we never agreed to. So, it can be a major distraction, major time suck. My co-founder, Gavin, our CTO, he's been managing a lot of these now. And we just learned, I think, even in the last like 2 to 4 weeks, that as an early stage startup, you are going to be very drawn to a number of platforms and a number of SaaS providers that have startup programs and founder universities, and free for a year, free for 18 months, 25% of normal pricing for 2 years, whatever. And then they get you. And then, if you survive and things start to work out, all of a sudden you're like, it's quicksand, and you're stuck. And now you have to decide between, ripping and replacing software during a time where you don't have the resources, and there are bigger priorities, and things are extremely tenuous, and in a good way. And that's how they get you. So sometimes spending that extra 2 weeks that you'd rather be building a feature, just, building your own plumbing, instead of relying on some other platform, can be, you'll thank yourself in the future. And, so that was kind of a hard fought lesson as of late.
I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, maybe not at the same scale, but we've definitely enrolled in various startup programs, and you're given a 95% discount on the enterprise plan that you don't need. And then you end up with a massive bill, and we just ended up. Luckily, I'm just referring to like the chat widgets, they're a bit commoditized, so it's easy to sort of find an alternative, join another startup program, and
Yeah. Yeah.
run by another 12 months. But
And then the overages, there's always some overage metric somewhere.
yeah,
And they're like, hey, you owe us double of your annual contract value because you went like 2 over this month. And it's like, come on.
no, exactly. Well, I guess the lesson here is always read the fine print and evaluate if you really need this contract.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just, being very thoughtful about how you manage the timelines and the terms and making sure that you're, allocating the proper time in advance to really strategize and negotiate and kind of have these conversations with vendors and partners upfront.
And I'm conscious, Nick, I've taken a lot of your time already. So if you were to give one piece of advice to a prospective founder, what would it be?
One piece of advice to a prospective founder, make sure that the people you work with are people you really like, and do not undervalue how important that initial team is, because I can tell you the farther you go, the longer you do it, the more successful you can become. And then as you become more successful, the higher those stakes get. And that's where those sort of relationships and the fundamental characters and how aligned your principles are, and just your ability to deal with tough stuff with someone else, really start to kind of come to the surface. So yeah, be very, very careful about that, and look to people that look to people that you worked with before, that you're friends with, that have expertise, and that you've had highs and lows with, and you understand that. That would be my most practical advice. My more upbeat would be just do something you love, because as we've joked about, it gets really, really hard. So the more fun and passionate you are about what you're doing, it just makes it easier because you're like, oh, I got to spend 8 hours working on a spreadsheet, but it's because I'm building the future of gaming content. So it's still kind of cool, and it's fun to see those numbers change over years. That sort of stuff, I think, is, if you're doing something too boring, that stuff becomes a little too boring,
I mean, I'm sure that I contracts is boring, but yeah, I guess it's for me, what interests me is the, making that whole process a lot smoother, because I'm so passionate about the pain when it's not smooth that, but yeah, find something.
Yeah, definitely read your contracts, be super careful about what you sign. And yeah, I think contracts can be boring. Red lines can be boring, but closing a deal is fun. And I really still, I love, and that excites me, whether you're hiring someone or signing a deal with a partner or closing a deal with a customer, getting that signature and executing that agreement is, it still thrills me to this day. And, I think that is such a huge part of business. It's all, that is the bits and bytes of decision-making and agreement. So cannot underweight the contract. Super important.
And you get a nice boost of adrenaline. Keep going.
Exactly. That end of quarter, gotta chase those deals, get those closes.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Nick, for being on the show and growing Allstar.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was really great to meet and chat. And yeah, thanks again for inviting me on.